Warning: the following video contains copious amounts of spoilers for a video game. You have been warned.
Hail players! First things first. This game is not worth the price. It is not worth what I paid for it. The game's free. It is not worth that. I would have gladly paid money for this game. Now hear me out. I'm talking about Eternal Senia, a game that I played a while back in an LRP. And honestly, this game is amazing. I am surprised. I am really surprised that this game was free. The gameplay is kind of weird, cause you don't really press any buttons to attack enemies. It's an action RPG.
See, to attack, what you do is you press the directional button until you're next to the enemy, and then you press towards the enemy, and Senia will attack by herself. Now, she does have a couple of special attacks that you can activate by a couple of button presses.
With that said, I noticed that even though I was using controller and the game in Steam says that it has full controller support, I found myself that a couple of the special attacks are not hotkey to the controls. So I actually had to press the buttons in the keyboard to be able to activate them. As
the story progresses, Senia can get a couple of special attacks, starting with the Phantom Strike, which is she dashes forward and attacks an enemy, which honestly is the best special attack she gets, and is the first one, because you can use it to cheaply kill a lot of the king enemies, which are tougher enemies from the norm, which usually have really good items. Then she has the Splash Leap, which is an AoE attack that she does all in front of her, which it's okay to deal with multiple enemies. Then she has the Fairy attack, where she actually shoots her fairy friend to attack other enemies, but the damage is very subpar, but it's really good to activate switches that are far away. And last but not least, she has Eternity Burst, which is a devastating AoE attack that deals a heavy amounts of damage. Sadly, you get it very near the end of the game, so you barely get to use it.
Now, what's very interesting about this game is that it has a little bit for everybody. Like, it's an RPG for people that don't play RPGs that much, because the mechanics are very simple and simplistic in that sense. But you also have a couple of things more for experienced players. Like, you have crafting, where you can craft better weapons and better armor. You also have hard mode for the bosses. You have easy mode for the bosses if you don't want to pass a lot of time fighting the bosses. I know I have my own problem with the bosses.
And it wasn't even the end stage bosses that tend to give me problems. It was mostly the mid stage bosses, and don't even get me started on that final boss.
And there's even some collectibles, because there are 3 guys at the end of each stage. The treasure guy, I forget what it was. I know it was a cheat, and there was the slime. Now, the slime was, if you killed enough of a certain type of monster, you get a special item. The chest was, if you got every single chest in the area, you got a special item. And the sheep was, if you got the best equipment in the area, you got a special item. Now, so there you have some things for the completionist, because I know a lot of people around there like to collect things and, you know, gather stuff. So you see, this is a game that has a little bit for everybody. So that was really cool of them. Now, the art style of the game, it's very reminiscent of Ragnarok Online, if you've ever seen Ragnarok Online. If not, go check it out online. It's a really nice MMORPG. It's Korean, actually, not Japanese. Well, I forget, but the point is, it's very anime style, and the sprites in this game are very reminiscing of the Ragnarok online game. And those sprites are really pretty, they're really, really well rendered. And if there's something I would have liked was to see the Senia, every time you change her weapon, that her weapon sprite would actually change. That would have been very interesting to see. With that said, the art style itself, the enemy sprites look really well. The cutscenes look really good. Of course, there's no full motion videos, but you do have stills of the characters talking. You have portraits of the characters, and the bosses are these gigantic beings, and well, very reminiscing also of really old role-playing games where the enemy is just a painting of the enemy in the background. So that looks really cool.
I mean, sure, it's a pity that the bosses themselves don't move, but for an RPG that is free, whose creators spent a whole year being able to design this whole game, it's really well done. And even though the enemies don't move themselves, just looking at their attacks, you can feel the energy, and you can feel that those still images are alive in the game.
Now the music of this game is also really good. The theme song you're hearing right now is actually the main theme of the game. You hear it at certain points in the game, and you also hear it during the menu screen, at the menu screen. And it's a really, really catchy song. Like, I love this song. I could dance to this song a lot. So, of course, every single area has its own different bosses. It has its own different themes. Every single area has its own different themes. The bosses have their own theme, and at the end, the final boss theme is really good as well. So this game was really well designed all around. Now, the plot of the game is very simplistic. You're a girl called Senia, hence the name Eternal Senia, and you go to the Tower of Eternity, hence the name Eternal Senia. So you find out that your sister, whom at this moment I forget the name, she went to the tower ahead to be able to, what was it that she wanted to do? Because again, the plot is very simplistic. Like, honestly, you wouldn't go into this game for the plot unless you like a sob story, and I'll explain why soon. So your sister went into the tower because you felt sick. You were sick at that moment, and she wanted to help you out. You wake up from your sickness, and you go to the Tower of Eternity to find your sister. You find out that the Tower of Eternity has a force called Eternity, and that Eternity can control people.
In fact, throughout the game, we do see our protagonist Senia being racked by the energies of Eternity. But what does this entail for Senia herself? Oh, you'll find out soon.
And a lot of the monsters here are creatures being controlled by Eternity, and creatures and other humanoids being controlled by Eternity. That's why everybody's out to get you. And throughout the game, it only has 4 stages, I believe it was. It's a fairly short game, but it's short enough that it's short and sweet, and it gets to the point. And that's something I really like. Like, there is grinding in the game, but only if you really want those extra goodies. So the game, in that sense, was really well designed as well, because since it goes straight to the point, you have a short story, a short game story. So everything is good and dandy. At the end, spoiler warning, the game is free. Again, if you want, go download it and play it for yourself, because now I'm going to explain some central parts of the plot, which, if you haven't played the game, you should, if you really want to play the game, play it before you go forward. Now, if you're still here, let me tell you, the game is simplistic in its plot, but it's also at the same time kind of, oh wow, what's the word? Predictable. Because it follows a lot of anime tropes. Your sister went to the Tower of Eternity. You find out that Eternity is a force that controls people to turn them evil. So you can guess where this is going. The final boss is your sister being controlled by Eternity.
And man oh man, Magaleta in her final form was a force to be reckoned with. I almost felt I was playing a Toho bullet hell game while fighting this boss. I mean, look at all this stuff. Enemies, lasers everywhere, platforms falling. This was very difficult.
Now you beat your sister and all's fine and dandy, and the game actually has 3 endings. But before I go to the endings, something I wanted to talk about at the beginning of the game. You have some really powerful equipment, including a pendant that doesn't do anything, and the pendant breaks at the beginning of the game. And right off the bat, I knew that was gonna come into play near the end. And near the end, you actually repair it, and you actually fix it.
Now here's the kicker. If you don't have that pendant equipped during and after the final boss fight, you are stuck with quote-unquote the worst ending of the game, which is debatable because honestly all the endings are pretty bad in and of themselves.
So there, I knew that was gonna happen. What actually threw me for a loop is that Senia's sister, actually Magaleta, that's the name of the sister, that Magaleta actually had another sister before Senia, which, you know, like, you see a lot of the sisterly problems they have there. Well, not really problems, but more like some minor trust issues. Now, the game, again, has 3 endings, and boy oh boy, do not expect a happy ending here. Like, one of the endings is you just fight her head on without the pendant. You defeat her, and at the end...
I mean, really, look at this. This is effed up. Her sister gets completely compelled by eternity, then they hug, then they both get completely consumed by eternity, and I mean, come on, they do end up living together forever and for all eternity as sisters, if that counts for something, though I'm pretty sure they're very evil as all heck.
So that ending is kind of depressing. Now the second ending, I actually think is worse. Because in the second ending, your sister hugs you, you know, you have the pendant, and the pendant is warding off eternity, but something's gotta give, right? Something's gotta give, and somebody has to be controlled by eternity. Like the tower commands it, like the tower is the will of the tower. It is a creature of chaos, it takes many forms. Anyways.
During the second ending, you decide to push your sister away, and you get completely consumed by eternity. You go Cocoa for Cocoa Puffs and brandish your sword on your sister while she screams, please, please stop, don't, that hurts, you're killing me.
And they will die at the end. And boy, was that somber. That was sad. That was horrible. That was a horrible ending. Fitting, because they did establish that eternity is this force of evil, and you know, it controls people. So that's an ending. Then you have your third ending, which would be the happy ending, where Senia actually
lets herself be embraced by her sister, which actually causes her sister to absorb most of eternity, teleporting Senia away. Senia screams to her sister to open the door so they can be together. Then it gets weird, folks, because now apparently the tower disappears. Senia stayed there a long time, but eventually she left. And, well, she went back to the chapel, and she did say, however, that she wants to go back and search for her sister once more, which is very, very interesting indeed.
So what I think now is the game definitely deserves a sequel. Heck, I'm against prequels. I don't like prequels, but this game I would like to see a prequel. I would like to see a prequel of Magaleta kicking demon butt, using her light magic. But more than that, I really want to see a sequel. I want to see where this story heads to. I want to see Senia actually saving Magaleta from the Tower of Eternity, because I like to believe that the third ending is the canon ending, because if not, I don't think I'd be able to sleep at night.